All right, we are going to try this again. This is the Entrepreneur Code live Facebook show, and we're gonna try to do this live, Knology cable permitting. Well. And again, Tim Knox, Thom Rigsby. This is the show where we're helping you crack the Entrepreneur Code. Tom and I are both well-experienced entrepreneurs. Tom,
well-experienced
with an H. Why don't you tell the folks who you are?
Well,
while we have a connection.
Actually, the last time I tried this, the connection went out.
Uh-oh.
So I am a performance coach. I work with business owners, leaders, help them build stable businesses so they can build the life and lifestyle that they want. I basically take the 25 plus years of experience that I've accumulated. Because, even if you have 50 years, you can say 25 plus.
Yeah.
Sounds good without
nearly
sounding too
3
old.
decades is what you did.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, take that. It's all yours.
You add the two of us together, it's nearly a century.
Wow. Jesus, we are old. Well, so you've been an entrepreneur, you've been an executive for tech companies, you've been a coach, you do a weekly radio show, so you are well versed when it comes to business and entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Primarily, the folks that you work with, do you focus on a niche, or are they all the way across the board, or what?
Well, so I like to work with businesses that are a little bit past just getting started.
Okay.
Maybe a year to 3 years, because that's the point where the things you had to do to get started have kind of plateaued.
Right.
And now you need to make some pivots in order to stabilize and grow the business. In terms of industry niches, as you are well aware, a lot of the basics apply to any niche. Mm-hmm. And the value of bringing the coach in to help you is that they've been able to see those things work across many verticals and can apply them to yours. So I don't necessarily specialize in any one niche or one vertical. Just the folks that need help, they feel like they're stuck, we get unstuck.
That's your thing. You are the unstuck guy.
That's me.
If you are in business and it's easy to get stuck, no matter where you are in the process. So,
the hardest part that I have found for most business owners is admitting that they're stuck.
Yeah, or knowing that they're stuck, because a lot of folks are stuck and don't realize it.
Well, that's true.
There's a lot of spinning of wheels in business.
Well, you get it's all honest though. I mean, you get so wrapped up in the day to day that you can lose sight of the bigger picture. And just like I like to say, it's like the hamster running in the wheel. He's working really hard. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But he's not moving.
Right. Well, he's moving, but he's not going anywhere.
Right.
He's not getting anywhere. So again, this is the debut episode of the Entrepreneur Code show with Thom Rigsby, Tim Knox, and we would love to hear from you. The reason we're trying to do these things live is because we want your feedback, we want your interaction, we want to know what you think. And as Tom said,
and what you're stuck on.
Yeah, what are you stuck on? What do you think your big challenges are now? Because that's one thing. I don't do the coaching anymore. I did it for years. Primarily, my business now is real estate.
Right.
But it's like you said, business is business.
Right.
The fundamentals are basically the same. It's really the product that's different. So my area of focus now is real estate, but it is as a real estate entrepreneur.
Right.
It's not as a real estate agent.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I focus on building the business, not doing the work.
Right.
And so, but the fundamentals are basically the same. And we talk about the Entrepreneur Code, and there's really no secret. I mean, succeeding in business, you kind of follow the fundamentals. Right. But there are those folks out there, and you hear from them, I'm sure. What is the secret? Oh, yeah. And not the book. If I just ask the universe.
That's the second most common question I get. The most common question is, where do I get my grant?
Yes. Let me tell you something. I did business coaching for the Chamber and for the Women's Business Center here for years. And the number one question that I would always get is, where do I get grant money to start my business? Tom, is there grant money?
No, there's not.
End of story.
But if you happen to find any, please let me know.
Let us know, yeah. Well, it used to be the guy in the question mark suit. Remember the TV
Yes.
commercials? And you can actually still buy his book if you go to YouTube and search on that guy. I don't remember his name, but he wore a suit with question marks on it.
Green suit.
And he literally sold millions of copies of this book about getting government grants to start a business, go to school, buy real estate, and there are no grants. I mean, unless the only grants you're going to find is like to redo HUD housing or something like that.
Well, okay. So to that point, if you wanted to start a business with the intent of getting a particular grant, you could do that. That's not where the questions come from, though. Right? At least the way that I hear them most often
Start again if you want to.
is...
Just for the shits and grins.
Sure.
We're trying to do this live on Facebook, but we have just the worst internet connection
ever
known to man here.
I thought Mediacom was bad.
Oh, no. Wow is much worse. If there was anything better. Anyway, back to what we're talking about. And yes, we are, if you're watching on Facebook, we are back again. Wow Internet is the bane of our existence. We are going to, we're going to record the whole show and just release it in one chunk. But anyway, we were talking about the fallacy that there are lots of government grants available to start a business, and when really that's not the truth.
No. Well, and so if you want to create a business in order to pursue grants, you can do that. Then you have to be willing to adapt to whatever the demands of the grant are, and the demands are many.
Yeah.
Right. You have to redo HUD housing in this zip code.
Right, and that's the point. You are not going to get a government grant to open a Dunkin' Donuts.
No.
You're not going to get a government grant to open a McDonald's or really any kind of typical business. The grants available have to do more with governmental issues like the HUD housing.
Right.
And that's not really a business. That's just to redo the house in most cases.
Right. Yeah, you still have to create the business, incur all the expense of creating the business, operating it properly, doing all the paperwork. I mean, it's
a pain.
It is.
So your chances of getting one are slim to none. But well, let's talk about this show. We are going to. It's going to be a 30-minute weekly show, probably recorded now since we're having such great luck with the live. But what are some of the things that we want to address as far as what is the code?
Well, I think, to me, the code is a way of thinking.
Okay.
That, as you were mentioning before, the fundamentals of being successful in business are pretty consistent, regardless.
The basic fundamentals of operations and that sort of thing, yeah.
Right. So it's a way of applying those fundamentals to the problem at hand. I love it that we have our own background music.
Yeah, it's the computer going, oops, I'm not working now. Let me just kill that. Keep talking.
So, well, one of the things that I say frequently is that our job as a business owner is to solve problems for other people at a profit. If you can do those things...
That's very good. Say that again.
Solve problems for other people at a profit.
I like that. That's a T-shirt.
Well,
it's a very nerdy T-shirt, but it's a T-shirt nonetheless.
I should do that.
Yeah.
If you can do that, if you can do those three things, you can stay in business as long as you want. Then there are things that you can apply to that. And for me, the difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur is the business owner, I don't know why, I always think of Mr. Olson on Little House on the Prairie. Right?
Wow. That's far-reaching.
No, I told you, I don't know why.
He was the general store guy? I always think of Mr. Haney off of Green Acres.
Well,
he was the consummate entrepreneur salesman.
Yes.
Mr. Douglas, what do you need today?
But both of them did the same thing, right? What do you need?
They're
I'll
generous.
find a way to provide what you need. They had, storefronts to give them the place to operate from, but their real job was solving problems for people. And so if we can do that, now an entrepreneur goes from problem to problem to problem.
Right.
A business owner creates a business and then sits there with it. And both of them are fine. We need both of them.
Yeah.
But I know you're this way, I'm this way. I get bored.
Well, I do too. The business owner to me is someone who, I don't want to say they start a business to give themselves employment,
Right.
But again, that's how it works out a lot. But you know, a lot of people are very happy doing that, opening a business, working in the business, and you know, creating something that they can pass on to their kids or what have you. And then you have what I call the true entrepreneurial mindset, which is where we look for opportunities, and if we're not careful, we can chase too many of those.
Oh yeah.
You know, my partner in real estate, Zach Walker, and I were talking yesterday. Both of us are really bad when it comes to the shiny object.
Ooh, look, a
syndrome.
squirrel.
Squirrel. We will chase every squirrel that runs by the porch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you do that though? How do you stay focused long enough to get the business up and running if you are the entrepreneur and not the business owner who's going to be happy in that one business?
Well, I think you have to be focused on the outcome that you're trying to create.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you focus on rather than the day-to-day task. You know, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, sometimes I get so focused on the day-to-day task that I lose sight of the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it is maintaining the view toward that big picture. This is the outcome that is pulling me toward it.
Mm-hmm.
And these day-to-day things are just what I have to do to get there. They're not the do-all, end-all of what I'm doing. If we can do that, if we can, and look, just be honest about it. A lot of business owners start a business with no clear objective in mind.
Those are the folks that don't have the code.
Right. I mean, and when you talk to them, you say, well, why did you start this business? Oh, I thought it would be fun. I wanted to make $1 million. I thought it would, you know, I hated my job.
Yeah.
Those are, okay, I get that, but they're not clear outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody that says, well, I wanted to build something that would outlast me, that my kids could inherit and you know, it could serve thousands of people, millions of people.
Right.
Okay, that's a little more in the right direction. So what happens is we don't have that clear outcome in mind, and then the only thing for us to focus on are the day-to-day things.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where you hear people talk about all the time, the grind.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's a real grind when the only thing you have to focus on is, how do I make the donuts?
Well, you know, one of the ways that I know,
Dunkin' Donuts
have your
reference.
Dunkin' Donuts reference. You know, one of the ways that I know that I'm spinning my wheels and I'm in the grind is when I say things like, you know what, I blinked and the day was over, or you know, I worked my butt off today and didn't accomplish a darn thing. When I start saying that stuff to myself, that's when I know, okay, I need to do something because I am in a rut,
Right.
and the business is not moving forward. We've got.
Hey, Catherine.
Catherine Lang. Catherine, what does Catherine say?
She thought we had shadow banned her. How do you know we didn't?
What does that mean?
Catherine banned her without telling her that we banned her.
Oh, okay. No. We're actually we're dealing with some technical issues here. We're dealing with some Facebook issues. But what we're going to do is record this and hopefully present it in one semi-coherent video block.
Well,
afterwards.
we are both on the show, so coherent might be a stretch.
Well, you know, welcome to Old Farts Talking Business. But
that's
there it
the name
is.
of the show.
There's the Facebook. You've heard of comedians riding in cars with coffee. We're Old Farts Talking Business.
There you
go. But again, the point of this show hopefully is to help folks, whether you know they're new to it, they're just thinking about it, or they're already neck deep into it. What have you? Because I think we also need to talk about the sequential part of starting a business. Okay, and we'll have to do it on this show. Hopefully, it's longer than what we have left. But you know what I mean, where it occurs to you that one day you find yourself thinking about starting a business, and then you start planning. You know, it's like you said, a lot of folks don't know what to do. Right. They think of a business, or they decide they want to go into business, and then without planning or without having that roadmap, they pull money out of the bank and they start a business, and a few months later they've lost their money and they're looking for a job. And
it all starts innocently enough, right?
As most horrors do.
My go-to example for this, kind of like Mr. Olson from Little House on the Prairie. I don't know why, but it's glass beads. That's my go-to example.
Okay.
I've got a
You might want
hobby.
to explain that one.
Well, I have a hobby. I'm making glass beads, right?
Uh-huh.
I show them to somebody and say, wow, you do a great job of that. You should go into business. Wow, I never really thought about
Boy,
that.
you ought to sell those.
I could get somebody else to pay me for my hobby. That's what I should do. Innocent enough, right? But the reality is, again, if you don't have that clear objective in mind, then you're just buying a job.
Right.
And
Well, here's the other thing that goes along with that. If people start saying, wow, you make the best brownies, you need to sell these brownies, you need a bakery. All of a sudden you've gone from making brownies
right,
to trying to open a bakery because your best friend said that those brownies were good.
right.
Seriously, you and I have both seen that much validation put into a business idea before.
I think you might have talked to these same people because I'm pretty sure I heard you tell this story.
Were they
too.
selling brownies? Was Catherine
No,
saying?
it was opening an Italian restaurant.
Okay.
She has a closet full of them because I could make them, but I didn't have a market for them. Yeah, cigar box purses. Yeah.
Yep.
So this couple comes in. We want to open an Italian restaurant. Okay.
Is this a real couple?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a couple that walked into a bar.
No, a real couple.
Okay.
Why do you want to open an Italian restaurant? You know, we went on vacation to Italy. Do you know that what passes for Italian food here is not real Italian food?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Tell me more. Well, we really enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and we think that people here would enjoy it too.
I think I talked to these people.
We're going to open an authentic Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You ever worked in food service? I mean, you ever owned a restaurant before?
No.
You ever worked in food service before? How about you just write me a check for $100,000 and in a month send me a thank you note?
Yeah.
I mean, because that's going to cost you. It's not just the money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, money's just a tool. A nice tool.
It's a nice tool.
It's just a
you can
tool.
do good things with money.
But there's the physical stress, the emotional stress, the strain on that marriage that's going to occur from them putting everything they have
And
into
losing it.
And losing it.
Yeah.
Because restaurants are ridiculously difficult to turn a profit on.
Yeah.
You wind up paying everybody that's working for you and eating the leftovers.
Yeah. It probably wasn't the same couple because mine was a few years ago, but it was the same kind of thing. They'd gone to Nolans on vacation, and they came back and they loved the food, and there was not a New Orleans restaurant here that they thought was up to par, so they were going to open a New Orleans restaurant. They were literally going to pull $200,000 out of their 401k and put into this restaurant. My very first question was, number one, have you ever been in business at all?
Yeah.
In any shape? No. He was an engineer, she was a housewife. Okay. So that means you've never been in the restaurant business. You've never owned a restaurant. Well, no. Okay. Have you ever worked in the restaurant business?
Right.
Either as a manager, cook, waiter, dishwasher? No, we've never worked in. Okay. Have you done the research to see?
But how hard can it be?
How hard
You've seen
can
the
it be?
people that do that, right?
My friend Bob has a restaurant and he's making a killing.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing though. As we went down that list, have you ever owned a business? Have you ever owned a restaurant? Have you ever worked in a restaurant? Do you know anything about food services? Have you done your research about the restaurant industry having such high turnover? No. I said, well, the smartest thing you could do is go back to work.
Uh-huh.
And it offended them. And they got up and left. And I don't know if they ever started the restaurant or not, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with dreaming about it.
No.
But let's be prepared a little bit. I actually told her, I said, why don't you go get a job working in a restaurant for a year?
A year. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to work in a restaurant. it was an interesting
owning
conversation.
a restaurant is?
Yeah.
Well, I think we have people who have not owned a business have this romanticized vision of what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
That they're the guy wandering around the restaurant, shaking everybody's hand. Hey, how's that soup tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're more likely wandering around with a mop bucket cleaning up after somebody that spilled their soup on the floor.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're like me. Every business I've owned, I was usually the guy cleaning the bathrooms.
Yeah, how's that work?
I don't know. I mean, when I was in the gun business, I had 2 stores. I had like 30 employees.
And still clean the
And I cleaned both bathrooms. And I never did figure out why that was the case, other than the fact that nobody else was doing it, and I might as well. So, anyway, this is the Entrepreneur Code Show with Thom and Tim, and the point of this show is to help you start, run, grow, and succeed in business. And we've attempted to do the whole thing live. I don't know if we're live in bits and pieces on Facebook. We will edit everything together and rebroadcast. But this is the inaugural show. We will hopefully be doing this at least every week.
At least once.
At least once a week. And we will, if you've got questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, even if you're not watching this live, because we can go back and address things then. But I think our goal with this show really is just to help folks, number one, validate themselves as an entrepreneur.
Right.
Should I start a business? Validate the business idea. Should I start this business?
Right.
And then help them plan to start and grow the business.
Well, and we were talking about this a little bit before we got started too. There's a set of things that you have to do to get the business started that are different than the things you have to do once it's started, and now you need to kind of stabilize it and prepare it for growth.
Right.
And a lot of people get stuck in that startup mode because it is so all-consuming that this is all I know how to do. That running this business is doing these things. And then at some point, the results kind of plateau. I'm not getting results anymore from doing these things because you've kind of topped out there in what they'll do. So, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's not something that you get taught anywhere. Right. But just, I'm on startups number 13 and 14 right now. I don't know if you're even counting anymore.
I lost count.
Through all of that, I've figured out that there's things you do to start up, there's things you do to stabilize, there's things you do to grow. And at each stage along the way, you have to do those things a little bit differently in order to...
And maybe that's how we do this show, is we kind of start from ground zero and work our way along every week of where we are. And of course, if someone wants us to address a different question, they can simply drop in questions or comments. So I think we're probably at about 30 minutes, so why don't we go ahead and cut things off. Tell folks one more time what you do and how to get a hold of you.
I do a lot. So I do this show. We have the coffee shop show, usually on Wednesday mornings, although we've had some interruptions with that. I do a 5-day-a-week podcast.
You do a real radio show.
And then do a real radio show on Tuesdays. Yeah. The little
and you do business coaching, mentoring.
Yep.
All kinds of good stuff.
Speaking tomorrow.
Anything for a buck.
Just about.
You have taken over my position as the anything for a buck guy.
There we go.
Because I've raised my price to $2. So.
It's like that old commercial for the dollar store where the guy keeps asking the clerk, how much for this? Yeah. And the clerk says, for you, $1.
$1, exactly. So, all right, guys, we are going to cut it off right there. This is the Entrepreneur Code with Thom and Tim. If we can help you in any way, feel free to reach out to us. I'm all over the place. I'm not hard to find. My phone number, 679-0704. To get a hold of you, website, phone number?
ThomRigsby.com.
Very good.
That's the best way.
All right. We'll try it again next week. In the meantime, stay soft.
Oh, you got to come up with a better line than that.
Stay sexy, Cincinnati.
Oh, that's what you were going to say.
It's the Anchorman thing, right?
Stay classy, San Diego.
Stay classy, San Diego. Hit the stop button.
Oh.